There are many harsh realities in the world of NIKKE, yet one proves to be more common above all else. Not all stories have a happy ending, as we'll soon come to realize in this chapter's summary. Once more, before we continue, a big thanks to my channel members, and to you, dear viewer, for supporting this series. It has been a month since Marion had experienced her neural wipe, and by this point, all seems to have returned to normal. The last month was spent assisting Marion to return to her former self. In addition, they'd also conducted simulated tests to get her accustomed to surface combat as well. Although her simulation results proved to be exemplary, there is still some doubt as to how Marion will perform in a real fight against the Raptures. Evidently, Marion's combat power can be chalked up to the fact that she was once a heretic before. Though we don't know much about the heretics, one thing is for certain: they rival the strongest members that the Arc has. Due to her innate strength, very little possibility is there of Marion failing to defeat the Raptures in a real skirmish. It is not long before the group encounters their first set of Raptures, putting to test all the teachings that Counters had instilled on Marion. The battle has ended swiftly, and unsurprisingly, Marion is a powerhouse and a formidable foe for any Raptures that she comes across. Following the battle, while conducting any necessary repairs, something odd occurs. Marion approaches a dying Rapture and begins stroking its core. In a dark and twisted way, it's as if she's sending the Rapture off into death peacefully. This notion, of course, unsettles the group, and when asked why Marion did it, she replies that she simply felt sorry for it. She felt sorry for the Raptures, the mechanical creatures who'd plunged the world into chaos and disarray so many years ago. With childlike innocence, Marion starts to question why she has to fight. Why do NIKKEs have to kill Raptures? She asks if the Raptures had done something wrong, and Rappy, much like many of us, doesn't have an answer for her. We still are entirely unaware of the origin of the Raptures, nor do we know their reasoning for eradicating humanity to begin with. Without getting a clear response from the commander or Rappy, Marion states that she doesn't understand and wants to go back to the outpost. Marion is tired, and thus, Rappy tells the rest of the team to head back as well. We are then met with Anderson and Ingrid, who are inquiring about Marion's first mission on the surface. The commander informs the duo of Marion's puzzling behavior and her sympathy towards a dying Rapture. When Ingrid gives a somewhat generic answer, Anderson chalks it up to a side effect of Marion being fused with Rapture parts as well. Oh yeah, that's a small little tidbit I can add here. Heretics aren't only purely NIKKE tech, but an amalgamation of both Rapture and NIKKE technology combined. It's an odd sense of NIKKE fusing, with the first instance appearing as early as the Red Ash story. Anderson and Ingrid are unsure if Marion needs to be retrained, stating that, mentally, she's still a child. It's perfectly understandable for her to be questioning the conflict between humanity and Raptures. However, in the future, this could prove to be something which could cause issues for the Counters. If incidences like these were to repeat, Anderson and Ingrid would be forced to intervene. Ingrid warns that greed makes people do crazy things. The central government sees everything, and no one is truly safe from their reach. Ingrid ends the conversation advising the commander that he can never be too careful, and to remain on guard. Back at the outpost, the Counters are dealing with a troublesome Marion. She seems to not be calming down until she sees the commander enter the outpost. The Counters can finally breathe a sigh of relief, but oh boy, things are about to be anything but calm. Suddenly, midway through asking the commander about future assignments, Rappy tells everyone to get down. The sudden sound of shattering glass is heard, followed by a cascade of gunfire. This isn't an attack by the Raptures, but instead by the corrupt entity that is the central government. Remember the Triangle Squad? You know, the group that literally killed Exia? Well, they're back, and this time, they brought a group of mass-produced NIKKEs along with them. We are met with a smug Privity who believes they have the upper hand over the Counters, when suddenly, a bullet whizzes past Privity's ear, and Rappy warns that the next one will go between her eyes. Rappy demands an explanation as to why Triangle is there, and shaking like a leaf, Privity states that they're under direct orders from her superiors, specifically a deputy chief, to secure Marion by any means necessary. Remember when Ingrid said greed makes people do some crazy things? Well, dear viewer, this is Exhibit A. And no, this wasn't Anderson that enacted this order, it was another deputy chief. In this world, there are multiple deputy chiefs that you'll come to know as the story progresses, with Anderson being the most prevalent. Rappy doubles down and simply states that Marion is a member of the commando unit, and that she is not to be taken by anyone else. Of course, the central government is wary of Marion's loyalty to humanity. They suspect Marion of secretly colluding with the Raptures, this being their main reason for wanting to take her by force. The speculation of Marion's loyalty is due to her recent mission they had just returned from. Pyrrhixz taunts counters once more, stating that she is authorized to use force if necessary to obtain Marion, so it's best the counters just hand her over. Anise has had enough of Pyrrhixz's dribble and tells her to shut it already. Although Pyrrhixz's rebuttal is that they're simply following orders, Anise's response is one of the most played soundbites and one of the biggest memes in the NIKKE community to date.
Orders from my superiors. What on earth are you doing? I'm talking to a central government lapdog.
Oh wait, that might not be what you heard. So here's a double take, and this time with the JP voice acting. Ah yes, truly a classic. Pyrrhixz, in retaliation, orders the mass-produced NIKKEs to move in on Counter's location. Funnily enough, the safest route for Counters to retreat to here would be the surface, and with their retreat, the commander attempts to contact Anderson to inform them of the central government's actions. Even though the Counters successfully make it to the surface, they soon run into another issue. Triangle wasn't working alone, and evidently, the central government was using all their resources to capture Marion. All communications are jammed and the Counters can't even get in contact with Shifty. Their only option here is to make their way to a radio tower to establish a stable connection, and without any further hesitation, the group makes haste towards the nearest radio tower to establish a stable line of communication with Anderson and Shifty. While traversing towards the radio tower, Marion asks if Triangle are bad people, and with Anise answering yes, Marion simply asks if she can shoot them, stating that they shot at them first, which it's only right to retaliate against. Rappy is the one to damage control the situation, simply stating that they shouldn't shoot anyone, and just because Triangle did something bad doesn't mean they should do the same. The team makes it to the radio tower and attempts to establish a signal. Neon, with Rappy's instruction, attempts to activate the tower only to receive a nasty shock. Suddenly, Rappy yells out to the group that it's a trap, and while they all hastily retreat, a large explosion can be heard within the facility. With the booby trap rendering the communication system useless, the group's only option is to carefully navigate out of the radio tower, as to not set off any more traps on their way out. As Marion is about to exit the room, Neon pulls her back as she sets off another explosion triggered by a laser motion sensor. Neon shields Marion from the blast. Scared and worried if Neon is okay, Marion agrees to stay within the formation, and with Neon confirming that she's alright, Anise heads to the group while leading them out of the radio tower. After a short period on foot, the team makes it to the second radio tower. This time, Rappy advises everyone to be cautious of their surroundings due to their kerfuffle in the last tower. Seeing a box of bandages, Marion simply can't help herself. Fixated completely on them, she makes a beeline for the box. Marion insists that she needs them. And big surprise! Once Marion picks up the box, it begins to beep with a flashing red light emanating inside of the box. Marion had been lured into another trap, this one in the form of a box stuffed to the brim with explosives. Urging Marion not to move, while trying to defuse the situation, the commander feels a cold metal press against the back of his head. This feeling is all too familiar. It's a gun, not held by any of his squad members, but instead by another person entirely.
Hands above your head.
Now. Good job.
It is here that we are introduced to D and K, two NIKKEs from the group Pyrrhixz Siege. They're the ones who had booby-trapped the radio towers, and it's evident that they're also interested in capturing Marion. Pyrrhixz Siege is holding the commander in an attempt to strong-arm the counters to comply. However, there's just one problem. NIKKEs can't shoot humans, right? It is revealed that D and K both had their inhibitors removed, making it possible for them to bring harm onto humans, even killing them if they wished. K demands that they hand Marion over, saying she'll spare the life of counters and the commander if they do so. K is irritated at this point and doesn't see the issue with killing a commander when there's an abundance of them in the Ark. Evidently, Dee is done with Kay's constant babbling and pushes for them to get business done. Marion asks the commander if he's in danger, to which he emphatically replies, yes. Kind of no shit, Marion? Marion begins to squeeze the box, well aware of the consequences of doing so. Against Kay's warning that it'll explode, Marion simply says that she knows. She's all too aware of the danger. However, this is necessary to save her friends. Dee and Kay scramble to get away from the explosive's radius, and the box explodes. But something odd happens. The explosion is localized in Marion's radius before the blast is completely absorbed into her bandage. Dee and Kay are in awe of what just happened, questioning what Marion really is. Her response is pointing her gun towards the duo. With full intent to fire, Marion pulls the trigger. However, being a NIKKE, she cannot fire unless given the order to. With this, Dee and Kay intend to retaliate against Marion, but that doesn't go so well. Marion stands above an unconscious Dee and Kay. It's as if the battle was of no difficulty to her. Awestruck by Marion's actions, the group sets out, abandoning the second radio tower. You would think the group is out of the woods now, right? Surely they're done with all the random look, it's the Triangle Squad! Again. Anise and myself for that matter are amazed the Triangle followed them all the way up to the surface. Pyrrhixz starts spewing all the central government babble about how many crimes Marion had committed, which to a degree is valid, but also the fact that they have permission to eliminate everyone but the target. Yep, she is way too high on her moral horse right now to even think about anything else. Rappy calls out Pyrrhixz on her bullshit, questioning her blind loyalty to the central government. It is revealed that if the commander hands over Marion, she will be dissected all the way down to her base components. The Ark is heavily behind in technological advancements, and Marion would help move the Ark forward 100 years. She has a unique composition of NIKKE and Rapture tech, and as it currently stands, the central government cannot analyze her without cutting her open and studying every piece of her, bit by bit. Admi goes into fairly graphic detail of all that would happen, and states it's because she doesn't want to lie to the commander. Yolha cuts Admi off, inquiring about what the commander's choice will be. With this, the mass-produced NIKKEs ready their weapons at Pyrrhixz's command. She gives the order to use live ammunition, and that everyone but Marion is expendable. With both sides readying their weapons, Shifty suddenly comes through the comm system and tells everyone to stand down. Pyrrhixz, being the government lapdog that she is, says she'll do no such thing, when Anderson's voice interjects, broadcasting the following statement.
Mind if I chime in?
Mr. Anderson?
Were you going to say your orders came from the Deputy Commander-in-Chief?
That's right.
Birmingham gave the order. That order has been rescinded. You and your troops will withdraw and return to the Ark.
I apologize, Mr. Anderson, but we are well aware that you are backing the commando squad. I believe this may be a ruse to get them out of this situation.
Are you insinuating that I am lying?
Yes, I am.
Birmingham, would you like to say a few words? All of you with, draw...
What is that?
You heard the man?
What's going on over there?
Oh, nothing, just two old friends getting reacquainted. Isn't that right, Birmingham? That's right.
I think Anderson's putting the screws to him.
I'm telling you one last time. Withdraw. Immediately.
By the way, you saw that right. Our Chad Anderson had literally beaten the living shit out of Birmingham, and holy crap, that man is not doing so great. Anderson really isn't someone to mess with. Anderson is now directly confronting Birmingham, disgusted that he would go so far as to use Triangle and Perilous Siege for his scheme of capturing Marion. He remarks that he didn't think Birmingham would stoop much lower, which raises a question as to what other egregious acts this man has committed. Birmingham states that Anderson knows how valuable Marion is to the central government. Capturing and subsequently dissecting Marion could lead to advancements which could be utilized to defeat the Raptures. Anderson is skeptical, questioning the veracity of Birmingham's claims, to which he replies that it's simply a gut feeling. Though Anderson does respect Burningham's reasoning behind his actions, he can allow him to continue hunting Marion. He tells Burningham that this ends here, and he doesn't want to get another report of such actions taking place against the commando unit again. Though Burningham is a deputy chief, his reach only extends so far. Burningham retorts, saying that he will not back down, to which Anderson replies that he will do everything in his power to see it through that Marion isn't dissected and is kept safe.
Is humanity no longer your top priority? Or is it the former commander in you that doesn't want to see a NIKKE treated this way? If you know what's good for you, you won't bring that up again. Sorry. I understand you. I do. I have to figure out another way.
In an odd sort of way, things seem to have de-escalated, and the two deputy chiefs can somewhat see each other's viewpoint eye to eye now. Back at the outpost, the commando unit finally has a chance to rest. They are still in awe of how Marion was able to absorb the bomb's blast, to which Marion states it's simply because she thought that she could do it. Evidently, it's obvious why the central government is after Marion, due to her innate skills and power. Even with the backing of Anderson and Ingrid, counters will have to defend the outpost all on their own. There are only two outcomes of this repetitive loop of constant fighting. Either counters give up Marion, or they fight to protect her until the bitter end. When entering the commander's quarters, the group finds that it's been ransacked. The room is left in disarray and various footprints lay scattered across the floor. The group is shocked, wondering who could have done this when Ingrid appears, stating that it was Heavenly Ascension. It is here that we are introduced to one of the most notorious groups of terrorists in the Ark, and ones responsible for tragedies that befell it. You actually met some of the victims of Heavenly Ascension in the last chapter, the members of Infinity Rail, NIKKEs who were once humans who were victims of a massive train bombing in the Ark, killing everyone on board. Ingrid had gotten word that Heavenly Ascension had raided the outpost and made great haste to get there. The perpetrators of this raid had already been apprehended and imprisoned. Heavenly Ascension is also after Marion, since information of her had spread through the entire Ark and the Outer Rim, which is Heavenly Ascension's main area of operation. The surprising thing here is the fact that the information had spread that quickly. Ingrid believes that the information had been leaked purposefully, and the group can only think of one person who'd do such a drastic thing, this being Burningham. Ingrid warns that the outpost will be raided in an attempt to capture Marion. Even with Ingrid and Anderson helping counters, there is no feasible way that they can possibly fend off the entire might of the Ark and the central government. With this ominous warning, the counters prepare to defend their newfound ally, refusing to let her fall into the hands of the central government, or any force that intends to take her. 5 long days pass. 5 days of constant fighting. The outposts have been attacked a total of 13 times, with the aggressors ranging from Heavenly Ascension to central government soldiers. Everyone at the outpost is at their wits' end, constantly fighting against humanity instead of the Raptures. The commander has had enough, and pulls out his phone, contacting the one person left that he could turn to. The counters are now on the surface, traversing to a target location to meet with some old friends. Marion is confused, questioning where they're going, saying that she doesn't need any new friends since she has the commander and counters. The group can't bring themselves to tell Marion the truth, and alongside the commander, urge Marion to continue following them until they reach their designated location. If Marion wasn't safe in the Ark, then the commander would enforce her to stay there. As Marion said before, the commander is a caring person, a kind person, so he found the only method that he could use to keep Marion safe. The group finally arrives at their destination, being face to face with Snow White. Snow White informs Marion that from now on, she's with them being the members of Pioneer. Marion, of course, isn't too happy with this decision. Even with her neural wipe, she still has a deep love for the commander and a newfound love for the counters. She pleads with the commander to not send her away, and at first, misinterprets this as punishment for her various mishaps within the outpost. This actually makes the scene hit a lot harder. Marion doesn't fully understand the situation that she's in, and instead, feels as though the counters were deserting her due to how she'd acted since they teamed up, when in reality, this was hard for all of them, and the only option they had left to ensure Marion's well-being even if that meant being without them.
I don't want to. I don't want that. I want to be with the commander. I want to be with all of you. I'll wear my underwear underneath my clothes. I won't play with the flower. I won't look into a gun or fight recklessly. I'll do whatever you tell me. Just please don't leave me. Do you not like me anymore, Commander? I like you, Commander. I like every one of you. I like eating together, standing guard together, and napping together. I want to be with all of you. I like everything about all of you. So don't...
Marion continues to plead that she wants to stay with the commander and counters, emphatically repeating how much they mean to her. The commander says that he'll come back for her, and states that that's a promise. When the time is right, they'll come back for Marion. Just then, a black light emanates from Marion's body. Stunned, the counters are at a loss of what to do. Snow White simply sighs, and with the help of Scarlet and Rapunzel, the group surrounds Marion as a white light envelops the darkness, swallowing it up completely. Snow White says that she brought Scarlet and Rapunzel as a sign of good fate, to show that she clearly intends to uphold her side of the bargain and take care of Marion as well as protect her. Snow White knows that it's her fault that Marion ended up the way that she did, so she also feels a sense of urgency to make sure she does all she can for her now. As a small side note, seeing these three pilgrims together is actually quite a rare sight. The pioneers don't usually meet up often, so for all of them to meet like this is truly a sign of how dedicated they are to Marion's cause. As pioneers venture off, Snow White repeats one last time that she will do her best to care for Marion, and with that, the elusive pilgrims with Marion in tow disappear into the fog, ending the feud between the counters and the Ark. The only issue now is relaying what exactly happened to the central government. However, the group has a plan for that too. Back at the outpost, Counters is having a chat with Pyrrhixz about what exactly happened on the surface. According to their recount, the commando unit went up for a stroll on the surface when they were ambushed by pilgrims who swiftly overpowered them and took Marion. Pyrrhixz presses the group with further questions, and it's almost comical how silly the Counters' responses are. Even though their acting is less than subpar, it doesn't change the fact that Marion is no longer with them. Pyrrhixz decides that the mission is most likely over, and in a huff goes to leave the outpost. She stops midway through the door and in a stuttery voice asks if the Counters see Marion again to tell her to be well. This of course makes the niece laugh after all the crap that they've been through. She also cares about Marion despite all that she's done, and we can chalk that up to her simply following orders to detain her previously. The commander is then summoned to Anderson's office with the information that someone important would like to meet with him. Anderson praises the commander for ending the situation the way that he did. It was far less extreme than other outcomes which could have happened. The commander is very smart, utilizing the connections he had with Pioneer to get him out of this jam. Anderson also informs the commander that Enoch, the AI that oversees all of the Ark, would like to speak with him. When Enoch encounters something unusual, or that is not easily explained, she learns best by directly interacting with that individual, and thus the commander makes his way to Enoch's chamber. When meeting with Enoch, she has a few questions for the commander. She inquires about the commander's methodology behind handing Marion over to the pilgrims versus handing her to the Ark. To Enoch, she believed that the commander would easily hand Marion over, so she is curious as to the reasoning behind all of this. She also asks the commander if he feels Marion is a viable resource to the Ark, considering she is a mixture of both Rapture and NIKKE technology. To each of these questions, the player is prompted with 3 answers. However, each answer leads to the same reply from Enoch. Due to the commander taking the time to allow Enoch to adapt and understand both himself and the world around her a bit clearer, she states that she'll answer any question the commander has as a form of thanks. The commander ponders this offer for a moment, when the thought of a familiar smiling face comes to mind. The commander asks if Chatterbox was communicating with someone in the Ark, and if that was the reason behind Marion's corrupting. Yes, we are recalling all the way back to Chapter 0. Enoch's response is one that shocks both the commander and myself when I first played through it. NIKKE was the one who colluded with Chatterbox. She was the one who was responsible for corrupting Marion, and the one responsible for not only the events of Chapter 0, but all future events following that surrounded Marion becoming Modernia. The commander, rightfully so, is furious, demanding an explanation as to why the AI who oversees the entire Ark would do such a thing. NIKKE's answer should be enough to tell you that humanity is not as safe as they believe to be in the Ark. Since the Ark's completion, following the legendary Last Stand, Operation Ark Guardian, the Ark had never once been invaded by Raptures. This is widely believed that this is due to the fact that Raptures are unaware of the Ark's location, thus allowing its citizens to live peacefully underground, away from the war-torn surface with the Raptures. This, however, is far from the truth. The Raptures have known of the Ark's location for a very, very long time, and they were never safe in the Ark to begin with.
The Raptures have known the Ark's location for a very long time. Chatterbox made a deal with me. In exchange for him not attacking the Ark, I was to periodically provide him with NIKKEs. I therefore select NIKKEs on a random basis and implant the corruption code sent by Chatterbox. I then manipulate the barrier and have them sent up to the surface.
Basically, NIKKE was using NIKKEs as bargaining chips. She further states that the gap in strength between the Raptures and humans are substantial. If they were to launch an all-out assault and face the Raptures head-on, there would be a 0% chance of success. This isn't a case where there's some sliver of hope, but an absolute massacre, with no victory in sight. Remember back a few chapters ago when we found out about the ant colony and all those deceased NIKKEs that were within it? A good number of those could also be chalked up to this deal that NIKKE had with Chatterbox. We quite literally are feeding the enemy resources to make them stronger, all because we don't have the strength to fight back. With Chatterbox dead, NIKKE is unaware of her place in this agreement and where she stands. However, she states that with the commander present, there's a new hope for humanity. The commander had accomplished feats that the Ark, during the entirety of its existence, had never come close to completing. He'd killed Chatterbox, destroyed a Raptor stronghold, and purified a heretic. Perhaps with the commander, NIKKE states, they could find victory. With this newfound information, the commander leaves NIKKE's quarters, ending the massive twist in the story overall. And we end this chapter with, drumroll please, it's Sewin. Sewin is in her lab, looking as stuck up, smug, and unpleasant as usual. It is here that we are also introduced to Sewin's assistant, Rianne. It appears that Sewin had some sort of items delivered to her, and she demands that Rianne hand it over. Rianne hands Sewin a red bullet, a bullet that she had retrieved from the surface. This was the Vophouse bullet, the trump card given to the commander by Snow White to defeat Modernia if push came to shove. The same bullet that was shot and caught by Modernia during their scuffle with the commander. If you recall, Modernia has spit the bullet on the ground, and now it was in the hands of Missless's CEO. Rianne questions what Sewin intends to do with the bullet, to which Sewin replies that it's obvious what her next course of action will be. Corruption contaminates Nymph and manipulates NIKKEs, so what would happen if the Nymph were completely removed? Matisse had been corrupted by Material H, and with the Vophouse bullet, Sewin states that she will wake Matisse. And with that, we wrap up chapter 14 of NIKKE's story. Not only do we have the revelation of NIKKE's covert deal with the Raptures, but we also have the lingering question of Marion and Matisse's fate. Did you enjoy this video, and what was your favorite part? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. We're approaching the final 2 chapters of NIKKE's base campaign, and I can't wait to continue recounting these chapters with all of you. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all in the next video. Gianne.